A volunteer mentor, deeply rooted in Scripture, sits across from a teenager. The teen suddenly confesses a detailed plan for self-harm and asks the mentor to promise they won't tell their parents. The mentor wants to help and immediately turns to prayer and verses about anxiety. But quoting a text doesn't equip you to assess suicide risk or navigate legal reporting mandates. Moving forward without the right training in this moment is the sin of presumption. Promising secrecy to a minor in danger isolates them and actively fails to protect the vulnerable. Biblical counseling ethics balances worship and character formation with the active protection of our neighbor. This model treats ethics as the disciplined application of God's character to every word, document, and decision. If a ministry builds its policies primarily to protect itself from lawsuits, rather than shaping the character of its counselors, it treats people as institutional risks. That approach leaves those who are suffering without genuine, accountable care. The foundation for this care starts in Proverbs chapters 1 and 9. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. In the counseling room, that reverence restrains our presumption. It forces us to pause before we speak or act on behalf of God. We do not operate in a vacuum. Ecclesiastes 12 and 2 Corinthians 5 remind us that every hidden thing and every counseling decision will be brought into the light. We will answer directly to Christ for how we handle the souls entrusted to us. Matthew 22 commands us to love God and neighbor, and Micah 6 defines what that looks like in practice: doing justice, loving kindness, and walking humbly. Ethics is love made accountable. Those who step into these roles carry a heavy weight. James 3 warns that those who teach and guide others will face a stricter judgment. The influence we hold over a vulnerable person requires careful boundaries. A robust theological framework takes our statement of faith and turns it into a living practice standard. It ensures that our confession is applied directly to how we listen, document, and respond in moments of crisis. This chart displays the specific lane of biblical counseling alongside clinical mental health, medical treatment, and legal or emergency services. A biblical counselor offers theological soul care and discipleship, not clinical diagnosis or medical assessment. When a counselor breaks down these borders, perhaps by attempting to treat severe psychosis with only deliverance prayers, they put the counselee in actual physical and mental danger. Overstepping your training is a failure of humility and care. We can navigate these boundaries using a structured decision process. Returning to our teenager with the self-harm plan, we first identify the issue, then we assess the risk, here a direct threat to life. Next, we clarify our role as a mentor, not an emergency crisis worker. With our role clear, we look at Scripture to guide our posture, check the ministry's safety policy and state reporting laws regarding minors, and immediately seek supervision. Take a moment. Based on the mentor's limited role and the high risk involved, what should the exact next step be? Pause the video to decide. The correct path requires the mentor to pause the session, keep the teenager safe in the room, immediately consult a supervisor or emergency services, and accurately document the observable facts of the disclosure. This structured process forces the helper to slow down. It moves the counselor away from private panic or impulsive action, ensuring the vulnerable person receives careful, accountable protection. Your capstone is writing a 750 to 1,000-word ethics posture statement. You will explain how the fear of the Lord governs your counseling practices, showing how theological conviction shapes daily accountability. This first portfolio artifact establishes a concrete ethical baseline for your future ministry. This text highlights a critical danger, treating the Bible as a mere repository of divine commands. Without a cohesive framework, counselors risk isolating verses at whim, a practice called norm reductionism. This narrows their ethical vision and leads to misapplying Scripture to complex situations. Ethical wisdom begins with reverent, accountable submission before God. This formation produces a counselor whose heart and methods bear consistent witness to Christ, while protecting those entrusted to their care.